Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Double AD, the greatest place in all of cyberspace. I'm your host, the old school AB, and that's right, ABW Detonate takes a dive underwater on the flagship show with us today. Joining me on this very special occasion, my brother from another mother. We have a very special guest, hailing from the boiler room, and weighing in at 190 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal, it's the one and only Kind Man. How you doing today, pal?
I'm doing just great. A week out from Survivor Series, getting ready.
That's right. We are getting ready, and I'm getting ready to defend the championship. I want you to know that. I'm not just going to be a paper champion. I'm coming for you, pal.
Yeah, and if you can, it will be a dead heat.
That's right.
I believe.
That's right. I am going to do my best. I'm going to train hard. I'm going to drink extra beer and...
Yeah, if you tie it up, that will make our favorite pay-per-view even more spicy.
Yeah.
For the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that it will. That it will. Which, of course, I think I've won the majority of the Royal Rumbles.
I have yet to win the Royal Rumble.
That's right. That's true. That's true.
It still goes back to me picking what's his name from AEW instead of Drew McIntyre.
MJF?
I picked MJF for a surprise appearance over just taking a nice solid Drew McIntyre.
Oh, that's funny.
That is the biggest gaffe in the history of... That was just me gifting you one championship.
Oh, jeez. Right. You beat yourself is what you're saying, right?
I beat myself.
Yeah. That's the tale I tell myself all the time when my wife beats me at chess. I beat myself. You didn't beat me. Anyways, the topic of today, wrestling Mount Rushmore. And this is a bit of a... I want to do a couple of things here real quick. First of all, I really dislike the idea, the notion of calling something a Mount Rushmore as the best of the best, because look, you can call Washington and Lincoln the best presidents, but I don't think anybody's going to say Jefferson and Roosevelt is up there are going to be the best of the best. Nobody is going to say that. So I don't know what it means when people say, like, I'm going to have like the Mount Rushmore of TV characters, or the Mount Rushmore. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because I equate that with your four best, as opposed to maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Is this who you would etch in stone?
No, I think it's, I always like the Mount Rushmore discussions, but I'm wondering if at the time it was carved into the mountain, were those four considered to be the founders of the nation?
No. Okay. In fact, the guy who carved it had absolutely, he just wanted to do it. He was a kook, for lack of a better word. He was a nut job who wanted to carve the presidents into a mountain. He actually I think he wanted to carve all of them.
Oh, okay.
The U.S. government stopped him from doing it.
In the lore of calling something a Mount Rushmore now, you are talking of the best of the best. The representation of, whatever, it is, whether it's the Mount Rushmore. I think the most difficult Mount Rushmore to do in all of entertainment and sports is the New York Yankees. Because I was thinking about that one the other day, and that one is a real challenge.
Right.
To pick four from, when you talk about the story, or just what we're talking about today, the Mount Rushmore all-time of wrestling. I mean, geez.
Holy mackerel.
That's difficult.
What a field.
That's what makes it fun.
Absolutely. And I'm ready to have some fun with you today. So let's get into it. Gosh, I think the best way we can do this is just take it one for one. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's important to share with the audience before we start,
right,
that this is not necessarily the Mount Rushmore.
Correct.
And how we vote for it.
Yep.
It is our Mount Rushmore. So more of an
Right.
importance to each of us.
Right.
When I think of wrestling, what are the four heads in the mountain that
Right.
I think of and you
Exactly.
think of? Because
Exactly.
if we were doing the Mount Rushmore and we were voting on
Yeah.
on the grand scheme of things, who should be the four people that represent wrestling,
Hmm.
our answers would be much different.
Oh yeah, because it's all subjective in the first
Yeah.
place, and in the second place, you're never going to come to a consensus on
Mm-mm.
who is the absolute all-time king of undisputed wrestling. But I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you're totally
Like
right.
I would make a case that one of my four from today could go on but
Mm.
I would tell you I would probably be met with vitriol from the wrestling community for even trying to make that case.
Well, I'm confident that at least one of the names on my list would be on,
Okay.
hopefully, would be on the majority of wrestling fans' list, and we'll get to that as we
Yeah.
go on. But I want to start with you, buddy. Who is the first face on your Mount Rushmore, my friend?
So I put it in four different categories.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
So just to kind of separate it out. And this first one I'm going to call the hooked me category. What
okay,
hooked me on wrestling? Who hooked me on wrestling?
gotcha.
What got me started? That where the first time I saw this entertainer, I was hooked. And I can tell you my first live wrestling event, the first
Mm,
match I ever saw live was this wrestler. And he absolutely hooked me into the sport. And it was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
yeah,
And
nice,
so
good
he is
one.
my first um, person to carve into the mountain,
Yeah, hell of a pick.
um, because he is what originally got me to love wrestling
Mhm.
and to follow wrestling very closely. I got to see that first match was Don Morocco versus Ricky Steamboat,
Oh,
and at the old Hartford Civic Center. And I just remember that. I remember that day. And so
right,
Ricky the Dragon, obviously his matches, with Flair and with, I
oh
mean,
yeah.
just so many iconic matches. I don't know if in this new world of finishers that you have to do 7 or 8 times, if the
Right.
flying crossbody holds up in today's wrestling, but
Yeah.
at the same time,
Well, I don't know. Maxine Dupree won with the flying cross body just not long ago on SmackDown. So who knows?
beating Becky Lynch.
Right.
So, so Ricky Steamboat is my number one. That is from
Nice.
the era that I grew up just loving wrestling.
That is a hell of a first pick. And I couldn't agree more with, pardon me, I couldn't agree more with a pick like that. Gosh, what a fantastic, fantastic performer he was. And I think you're going to see on this list a lot of fantastic performers. Um, gosh, so the first one on my list is going to be, this is going way back. This is a reason I'm called the old school, folks. Um, we're
By the
going
way,
to go,
before you even say your first one, I'm going to make a prediction
okay.
that somehow, some way, one of your four I've never heard of.
It could be. It could be this one. And it could be this one. I am going to,
Yeah,
the first name on my Mount Rushmore is Vern Gagne. Do you know who that is?
no idea.
No, you don't know Vern Gagne. Okay. Vern Gagne, right? 11-time world champion. He was the owner and promoter of the American Wrestling Association. He was a legitimate Olympic athlete. Long before there was a Kurt Angle or a Shelton Benjamin or a Brock Lesnar, he was the man, right? He won 2 NCAA titles, and he was on the 1948 Olympic wrestling team. Unfortunately, that was the year that the Olympics boycotted. The America boycotted the Olympics, so we never got a chance to see Vern in action in the Olympics. I'm willing to bet that he would have gone quite far. I don't know if he'd have gone as far as Angle, but he'd have gone pretty darn far. He actually holds the record for the third longest singles title reign of all time, right behind Bruno Sammartino and Lou Thesz. So that's rarefied air right there. More importantly, he trained almost a who's who of legitimate wrestling superstars. I'm talking about the Iron Sheik. I'm talking about Ric Flair. I'm talking about Sergeant Slaughter. I'm talking about Big Van Vader. The list goes on and on. People often cite Stu Hart's dungeon as being the place
Yeah.
where people go to train. Nuh-uh. I think Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the AWA back in the old school was the place to go. You came out of that place, you were ready to rock and roll. Let me tell you. Um, Without his contributions, both in ring and behind the scenes, professional wrestling doesn't look like what it does today. And I don't think a lot of people give him enough credit. Um, one of the one of the interesting factoids that I pulled out, I didn't even know this. Quite notably, he won the Nebraska Tag Team Championships with a guy named Tex McKenzie. Imagine that. A Texan and a Minnesotan wearing the Nebraskan tag team belts. I guess Iron Mike DiBiase was sick that day. Anyways, that's an inside joke
How
for
many
you
states
Nebraskan
had tag
fans.
team belts?
What's that?
How many states had tag team belts?
I'm telling you, every state, 50 states, 50 tag team belts. That's the way it worked. Everybody's a champion. You get a belt, and you get a belt, and you
Exactly.
get a belt. People complain about AEW having too many championships. Give me a break. This is a long-standing tradition. But no, no, he won the Nebraska Tag Team Championships with a guy named Tex McKenzie. I've never heard of Tex McKenzie either. So if you had Tex McKenzie, as Kind Man would say, if you had Tex McKenzie on your bingo card for ABW today, you win.
Well, stay tuned. Who knows
Yeah,
on
who
that?
knows what
That's my
else might
next
happen.
member.
So Vern's career spanned from 1953 to 1991, where he had his last match. Can you imagine that? 1991. Um, and the sad part is, and this
Wait,
is
he had a match in 1991?
his last match was in 91. Yeah.
Wow, I should know him then.
Well, maybe you don't. I mean, look, sadly, he'll probably be remembered for being an out of touch promoter at the end of his career.
Okay.
Um, the AWA wasn't doing so hot towards the end of the run. Yeah, they weren't doing so great. I mean, he had a deal with ESPN, but their ratings were absolute in the dumpster. It was a dumpster fire. Um, in fact, I think the last series of matches that AWA ever had was during Thanksgiving, and it was called a turkey on a pole match. I'm not making it up. They had a dang gum turkey on a pole match, and it was won by a wrestler called Dave the Milkman Million, who was actually a jobber. So go figure. That's a snapshot into how well he booked his territory at the time, right? Um, but I choose to remember him as the predominant force in pro wrestling throughout the 70s and the 80s. He had all the big players. He had Andre, he had Hogan, he had the Iron Sheik, he had Jesse Ventura, he had Gene Okerlund, all before they went to WWF. All before then. And in many ways, Vern was really ahead of his time, but yet he was also behind them at the same time. He had the talent, he just couldn't change with the times. Notwithstanding, just because of the fact that he was able to train and produce so many Hall of Fame talents, he is the first person on my Hall of Fame Mount Rushmore.
All right. Well, as I said, that is a factor. Contributions to when
Yes,
you talk a lot of times about, for things of sport or entertainment or
mhm,
whatever, it's who revolutionized, who changed
exactly.
the game. And I think you've described very well why he deserves um to be looked at in that
Yeah,
capacity.
yeah, absolutely. Long live Vern Gagne. Okay, buddy.
Yeah.
Who's your next pick on the mountain, buddy?
So my next pick, you just referenced him, and I
Oh,
this came from my villain bracket. So I have
okay.
always, even as a young person, I was always, even though Ricky was the Dragon was my favorite wrestler at
Right.
first, I pretty much always gravitated toward the heel, toward the villain. And my next member, my second face, is the Iron Sheik.
Oh, yeah.
Um, when you think about the timeline, of the early 80s
Mm-hmm.
and the Cold War
Oh
and
yeah.
Soviet Russia and all of these things, to have that sort of heel, you know,
Yeah.
from
Foreign menace.
Iran with Nikolai Volkov,
Yeah.
and the relationship between Iran and the United States, and how he played on that, and how that
Absolutely.
tag team played on that, and just the ultimate villain. And he just classic matches. I just remember putting my friends in the camel clutch in my basement until, we used to time it to see who could last the longest in it. And it's just,
I always thought the camel clutch felt good because it stretched my abdominals.
oh my God, no. If you put it in right. That is not a comfortable situation. That's not yoga, my friend.
No, it's not a yoga pose.
That when you
Warrior
get those
one.
arms around your knees, and you get that chin pulled up. No, no, no.
Ah.
That is no fun. No fun.
Oh boy.
But I mean, just from his battles with
Right.
Hogan,
Oh
battles
yeah.
with, everything, just the absolute hatred of the fans. See, because I grew up
Mm-hmm.
like hating Hulk Hogan, so I in turn love the Iron Sheik. Um,
Yeah.
and things along those lines. So no, he definitely. And by the way, you talk about contributions
Mm.
to the game. He also turned into one hell of a Twitter follow
Yes, he did.
in
Yes.
the years before his demise. But also there's still somebody I'm sure in his family that keeps that account alive and just
Yeah.
retweets his old his old tweets. Like I love waking up on Monday morning getting a tweet from the Iron Sheik that just says "fuck the Monday."
Right. I
Uh,
loved Iron Sheik's tweets. God, did you ever see his shoot interviews with RF or whatever?
with who?
With I can't know, RF video, I think it was the shoot interview. It's an hour and a half to 2 hours of the Sheik just doing that. Fuck the Monday. Just it's fucking great. If you can go out of your way on YouTube to find it, please do that because it's just the most entertaining thing you'll ever see. He just shits on everybody for everything. It's great.
Yeah. So definitely the Sheik was, when you talk about the timeline, and at the same time as, Ricky the
Well,
Dragon. And
yeah.
when I was really in that phase of falling in love with it, um, I just thought it was so brilliantly done based on
Hmm.
the climate in the world.
Yeah. Oh no.
What a great character.
But that's the thing though. He knew how to maximize his time on social media, on the microphone. It didn't matter. He knew how to maximize that time. He knew how to maximize his minutes.
Yeah.
And you're right. He did change the game for social media for professional wrestlers. The whole like. Um, so I can't disagree. In fact, I really like that pick. Um, he might have been close to being an honorable mention on
Yeah.
on my list, by the way, because he's another legitimate Olympian.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
And those boots,
I know, right? The loaded
those are
boots,
iconic.
the loaded boots. Oh yeah,
No,
you knew
iconic.
trouble was coming when he stomped in the corner of the ring
Yeah.
to get that metal or whatever it was in his boot down towards those curled toes. I love those boots. They're fantastic. Iron
That would be a
Sheiky
piece of
baby.
wrestling memorabilia I would love to display.
Oh yeah. Can you
If I
imagine
can get
getting a pair of Sheik's
one of those
boots?
Iron Sheik boots.
Wow. So Iron Sheik, number 2 on your list of Mount Rushmore. Fantastic. All right, let's move on. Let's see who my number 2 is, and I know it's somebody you've heard of. In this instance, excuse me, I'm going with the perennial NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and no, I'm not talking about Nature Boy Ric Flair. I'm talking about the King Harley Race, one of only 6 men to have been inducted into each Hall of Fame. Each Hall of Fame. WWE, WCW, Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. The list goes on. He's in every single one of them, and with good reason. Like Vern, he wrestled from 59 to 91. But the problem with Harley was he had some pretty serious injuries that kept him from competing longer. And it's probably due to his hardcore style. You know, he wasn't a blood and guts type wrestler, but he did some stuff. He took some spills that would make you go, ouch, you know, on the concrete, through tables, the whole nine. He was actually one of Mick Foley's influences early on. He was WWE's first ever King of the Ring. He was an 8-time World Heavyweight Champion for the NWA when it actually meant something. His matches with Flair and Dusty are those of legend. When you watch them, you can tell how stiff they work together. It was real, you know. They weren't pulling punches back then. I can really see Harley, more so than Vern, as the link between two generational gaps, right? He wrestled both 108-year-old Lou Thez, and he also wrestled Ric Flair. So he's that perfect gap between the old school and the new school, which meant that he could and did change with the times. He had a stint as a manager in WCW after his retirement, which was just as good. With him being a physical manager type, he managed Lex Luger, he managed Vader, which was badass. He might have been the toughest guy, minus for Meng, that was ever in pro wrestling. And I don't know, Meng could give him a run for his money, but Harley was tough. A lot of people deduct points for his legacy for what he did with NBC and that Secrets of Pro Wrestling show they aired, but that's inconsequential to me because that came out at a time where everybody already kind of knew, you know? I don't hold that against him. So for all those reasons and above, Harley Race is the number 2 seed on my Mount Rushmore.
You are correct. I have heard of Harley Race, and I've seen Harley Race
Yes.
wrestle. And granted, it was towards the end
Right.
of his career when I caught up with him. But absolutely. And
Yeah.
I have since I have looked at, you know, I've done research and watched shows and documentaries and things like that about his career. So I think that is a great pick.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Harley was one tough son of a gun, let me tell you. He there's so many great stories about Harley, and I can tell them secondhand or third hand, if you will, but I mean they just don't come sounding outright sounding from me. You know, how many times there's an infamous story of Vince running a show in Kansas City, which was Harley's territory, and Harley showing up to the arena to confront Vince, and instead got Hogan instead. And Hogan greeted him and said, "Harley, I thought you'd have a great big gun with you when you came in." And Harley pulled a gun out of his pocket and said, "Not a great big one." Yeah, he set the ring on fire and then left. That was Harley Race.
He literally set the ring on
He
fire?
literally set the ring on fire. That was Harley Race.
Right.
Crazy, 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 right? And I
Steve
mean,
Roach wrestling is real.
for him it was. That was his bread and butter. You know,
Yeah.
that was his meal ticket. Vince was coming into Kansas City. You know, you can't do that. Now, eventually, of course, you know, they did work things out, and you know, Harley did go to WWE for a short stint. But yeah, like I said, he was the first ever King of the Ring, which is a gimmick that still holds to this day, I think. When was the last time they
Yeah.
did a King of the Ring? Was it last year?
They do it every year.
Yeah, they do it every
They
year.
do it every year.
Yeah,
I don't know if they had some sort of a gap, but they have been doing
right.
it.
Yeah, because I know it hasn't been a continuous thing, but I know that it still exists in some shape, form, or facet over
Yeah.
there. But yeah.
No, they had it recently. I think I'm trying to think the girl from Miami won it, I think. Vega.
Oh yeah, Zelina Vega.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
she won it.
she's the queen of the ring. That's right. That's right.
Mm.
All right, that's my second pick, buddy.
All
I'm
right.
ready to hear what you have for number 3.
So my third, I'll give you the category first.
Okay.
Is I put a category as headliner.
Okay.
Just somebody that well before there was main event Jey Uso. You know, like who who is the main eventer, who is the headliner, who is the showstopper,
Oh
and that
yeah.
is Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shawn Michaels from a just whether it's the DX years or
Yeah.
maybe we can look past the Rockers, but
I
after
like the Rockers
after he threw Marty Jannetty through a glass
through the
window was
barbershop
when
window.
Shawn Michaels started to go on the rise. And just the amount of when you rank top matches,
Yeah.
when you look at some of the top matches, it's like over and over and over, Shawn Michaels' name will show up on it. I think I looked at one list that was like the top 10 matches in wrestling history, and I think Michaels was on seven of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
just, earlier on, obviously very athletic, could do everything in the ring. I always loved Sweet Chin Music as a finisher,
Hmm.
just really loved him as a character. The only thing it still pains me though to watch him even walk today.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna
Because of
say,
what everything you talk about, beating yourself up and because
yeah.
he's not the biggest guy in the world,
No, he
and
took a
and
bump though.
he's in there with giants.
Yeah, he was able to
Um,
bump around for a lot of those big guys. So yeah.
yeah. So, and he just talk about a main eventer.
Yeah.
That's why I roll my eyes every time I hear people say main event Jey Uso. I just can't. I can't do it. If he's main
Yeah.
event Jey Uso, why is he on? Why does he lead the second hour every show?
They should call him second hour Jey Uso.
Mid event or 9 p.m.
Mid
Jey Uso.
card Jey Uso. Oh my God. And look, I don't like we've had this discussion before. I don't hate Jey Uso. I like Jey Uso.
No, I like Jey
Just
Uso.
don't call him main event Jey Uso if he's
Yeah,
gonna
it's just
be tugging the curtain.
don't try to make him something he isn't.
Right. You know?
He's great.
He is. He is. He could drop that main event gimmick though.
Yeah, and also, the other the one reason if I don't like Jey Uso, if it sounds like I don't,
Right.
there might be one reason. I'm falling out of favor with the 14 and a half minute intros.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
I've had
yeah.
enough of those. And it's not just him. There are other ones too. But
Yeah.
it's just like he comes on at 9:01 and the bell rings at 9:17.
And he's blown up.
Yeah, it's just like
Right? He can't wrestle now all of a sudden because he's winded. Oh
Shawn
God.
Michaels,
Shawn Mike, what a
my number three.
fantastic third pick. What a fan, and might I say he might also have crossed the old schools list as well. He was a close contender.
Yeah,
Um
and look up some of those DX bits.
oh
Those were
yeah.
those were tremendous.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Perfect example. And speaking of perfect examples, number 3 on my list, here's a perfect example of a wrestler who never needed a championship. And I'm talking about Hot Rod Roddy Piper.
Oh, yes.
Now, he wrestled from 1969 to 2011, trained by Judo Gene LaBelle of the famed LaBelle Lock. He invented that submission. From 1970 to 75, he was just a jobber, right? He got squashed all the time, working for Vern and working for Gene LaBelle out there. But eventually he found his way to Portland, and he found his way into becoming one of the biggest heels in California. He literally wrestled everywhere, but he especially got big in Portland for Don Owens' promotion. And his segments, I mean, look, we could talk about it all day long. The Piper's Pit segments are literally the blueprint for everything else that came after it. Every single talk
Absolutely.
show, Piper's Pit was revolutionary.
100%.
His dog collar match with Greg Valentine was the blueprint for modern hardcore wrestling. He's ingrained in so many blueprints, it's not even funny. His feud with Hogan catapulted the WWF to unseen heights.
Yep.
And most importantly, in my humble opinion, he really understood the value of going away and then coming back for a while to a huge pop. He knew that eventually, no matter how good or how popular you get or how over you get, that people can't miss you if you don't go away. So he would routinely go away, film a movie, and this was long before other wrestlers tried their hand at it. Hogan tried it, and so did Jesse Ventura. But I'm telling you what, They Live, John Carpenter's They Live, remains a classic to this day. Roddy Piper was a huge part of that movie's success. And I can't say that about a Hulk Hogan film, you know? Um, Roddy Piper was a huge part of the success of the rock and wrestling angle. He was the guy who kicked Cyndi Lauper in the head, making him instantly the biggest heel in the universe. And I think, because of that, nobody was more hated or more loved at the same time. There have been plenty of wrestlers who have been either absolutely despised or absolutely loved, one way or the other. But he's one of those guys who fall into that rare category. He's the very first cool bad guy.
Yeah.
And like I said, his career, again, a blueprint for many guys. Y2J, MJF, CM Punk, so many more that I could name, that his career was literally the blueprint for. And the rule is, if you are the blueprint for 3 or more things, you get to be on AB's Mount Rushmore. Roddy Piper, spot number 3.
So tremendous pick.
Yes.
And, I'm such a huge fan. I told you about liking the bad guys.
Oh, yeah.
That day that I saw Don Morocco fight Ricky Steamboat at the Hartford Civic Center, I saw King Kong Bundy and Andre the Giant in a steel cage match.
Nice.
They had a Piper's Pit that night, and I left that evening with a Hot Rod t-shirt.
That's right.
My dad bought me a Hot Rod t-shirt, and I will tell you, I wore that white, red, and yellow Hot Rod t-shirt until there was no color on it anymore. That's how much I love that t-shirt.
Favorite shirt. Do you have one now as an adult?
No, I do not.
Oh, what a shame. Oh, we should fix that for you.
I had that. That was my first piece of wrestling gear that I ever got.
Yeah. That's awesome.
My first wrestling t-shirt was Hot Rod.
That's awesome. That's incredible. That's a great story. Yeah, number 3, Hot Rod, Roddy Piper. I'm dying to hear who your 4th pick is, but if you have any honorable mentions, Mr. Kindman, please feel free to share them.
I'll give an honorable mention right there is Hot Rod.
Hot Rod?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was very close. That was probably my 5th, quite frankly.
Yeah.
He's
up there.
So yeah, but my 4th, I don't think I think this one. This is probably the one you could have predicted.
Yeah.
Is my all-time favorite wrestler, and that is The Undertaker.
Yes. What a great pick.
25, and this is the one that I would try to make a case could be on the wrestling Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
I know
you're right.
Many would disagree with me, but I would try to make that case. From my perspective, just my greatest wrestling memory was when the Undertaker, the old Undertaker, the original Undertaker, beat Hogan for the title at Survivor Series. I watched that match. I watched that match probably 3 or 4 times a year because I just enjoy the panning to crying children during that match because everyone loved Hogan so much. The only thing about that match that I didn't like was he screwed up the final tombstone.
Oh yeah.
And like missed the chair by like a foot.
A whole foot, yeah.
But other than that, I mean, Paul Bearer, Undertaker, I was not a huge fan during, the motorcycle timeline,
Yeah,
the
American
badass,
Badass, yeah.
when he traded the tombstone for the whatever other thing he did.
Right.
That I don't know, that other finisher he did, but
yeah, Hell's Gate or whatever.
Just the Undertaker. I mean, I think one of the biggest tragedies in the history of wrestling was them having him lose at WrestleMania. I thought
Oh,
that was just
yes.
do not go 21 in a row and then knock him off.
I know.
Um, he ended his career with a 25 WrestleMania wins. Just think about that.
I know.
A
I know.
quarter century of wins in the grandest stage of wrestling. So by the way, for anyone that doesn't think he would be on um, the Mount Rushmore,
Hmm.
just chew on that for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
A
No.
quarter century of WrestleMania wins. You want to talk about relevance, and you want to talk about, like they don't just hand out WrestleMania wins to
Right.
people. That, and by the way, from what you hear behind the scenes, a tremendous mentor
Oh, yeah.
to numerous generations,
Yeah.
always willing to help, always
Yeah.
willing to support and to,
Give
get people
back.
on the right track, good person,
Yeah.
all those things. Tremendous. I mean, some of the iconic matches. I wasn't always that big a fan of some of the buried alive matches, and some
The
of the
Inferno
casket
match
matches.
with Kane. Yeah.
I was at the Royal Rumble in Providence, where he lost to Yokozuna in a casket match,
Oh, yeah.
and it was basically the entire locker room came out to help Yokozuna, which that was how dominant the Undertaker was at that time. It
Yeah.
was like 30 on 1, and then the Undertaker almost won on top of that with Yokozuna. And then they did some of the worst production in history. I hope whoever decided to
Right.
do this got fired. But they raised
A
after the
dummy.
Undertaker got put in the major casket, they
Right.
raised some like scarecrow
Right.
uh, Undertaker doll to you could see the ropes, and they're
They put
making
a
it look
trench
like they're
coat on a
going up.
mannequin.
Oh my God, it was the worst.
By the way, talk
But
about
I
one of
was in
the
the building for that.
that's awesome, by the way. And to a further a point you were talking about earlier, one of the biggest boneheaded moves in all of pro wrestling was to have them end that streak. I don't
Yeah.
understand why, and just have it end randomly at a random WrestleMania where he's going to continue to wrestle after the fact. You know?
Yeah, and it's like
Oh,
you sold all these VHS tapes, 18 and 0, 20 and 0. They came out with one almost every year.
yeah,
At that point, you're 22 years into this.
yeah,
Just keep it going.
yeah. I know. It never
Or
should have been broken.
don't have him in the event.
Right, right. If you don't want him to win,
Like
don't
it,
have him booked.
yeah, don't book him. I mean, like listen, it just it's 21 and 0. Is
Yeah,
there any reason at that point in the game
no,
to have him
no,
lose? Just
no,
put him in a match where you can write the storyline that he wins.
no,
It's that was so annoying to me
no.
because
It
I
was
remember
so
when it was 12 and 0, when it was
right.
13 and 0. That was exciting because you were
It
like,
was.
"Come on, keep it going." But then all of a sudden, when it got to be 21, and he beat Shawn Michaels 3
Hmm.
times, and all of these things and these amazing matches, then it's like, all right, we can see the finish line. We're on the 17th green. Okay, we can see the finish line. Just see this out.
Right. Like there's if you had golf references, by the way, on your bingo card, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. If listen,
Wow.
you can't sell 25 and 2 videos.
No, you can't. No, they don't make them like that. And of course, the second
Yeah.
loss was just as silly, in my opinion. But at that
Well,
point, it was just
why
whatever.
why even bother?
Yeah, why
But at that
bother?
point, I didn't even really care because it
Yeah,
was like
it was.
once the
Yeah,
streak was over, it was kind of like,
yeah,
okay, this has lost its luster for me.
yeah.
And by the way, that also made the 23rd and 24th match less exciting.
It did. It did.
So then you negatively affected 3 more WrestleManias.
That was the greatest title they never had to build. That
Yeah.
was they just, I mean, when I mean title, I mean that was a title, a championship they never had to produce, a physical belt, right? Just incredible. Just
One of
incredible.
the
Look at
things
this.
I got that is awesome.
Look at this thing. Look at that Undertaker championship belt.
Oh,
Oh
it's
my
it's
God.
it's purple and it's black and it's charcoal
That is
and it
amazing.
just has just it's the 30-year anniversary Undertaker championship belt.
Golly, that is
It's
amazing.
beautiful.
That is a
It's
beautiful
an absolute
championship belt.
beautiful piece of wrestling lore
Yes.
that the WWE came out with. And I was at a point where I was not in the business of spending near $600 on wrestling belts when it came out.
Right.
And it sold out like in days. And I was like, damn it, I just should have pulled the trigger. And a lot of times when they do these, they don't bring them back.
Right.
And then a year later, they came out with a second run. So
Oh,
I was like,
nice.
yeah, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
miss out this time because
Don't sit out on it. Yeah. I don't blame you. I would have done the exact same thing.
so the Undertaker, 25 WrestleMania wins. Um, yeah, that's a main eventer, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't disagree with that pick. And by the way, I think you make a strong argument for him to be on the Mount Rushmore of all time. And like I said, he was close on my pick as well. In fact, there's a lot of honorable mentions that I had. Shawn Michaels was an honorable mention for me. Undertaker was an honorable mention for me. Bruno Sammartino was an honorable mention for me. Kurt Angle was an honorable mention for me. Ric Flair was an honorable mention for me.
Yep.
And one guy who just barely missed this list, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Oh, okay.
And he was the greatest stick man in the history of the industry, right? Nobody could top him.
You know what his best performance was?
The Royal Rumble?
The Royal Rumble with Ric Flair.
With Ric Flair. That's not fair to Flair. That was great. I loved it.
Oh my God, that was
Somebody
so
give me
good.
a drink.
That was so I'll tell you the story of that because I've been to multiple Royal Rumbles. I've been to 3.
Right.
But that one, I was a senior in high school and I had 29 friends over
Right.
to watch the Royal Rumble at my house. And each of us picked a number.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever picked I had number 29. I ended up getting Sid Vicious.
Right.
My friend who got number 2, his name was Rob. He, of course, the richest kid in town. And we had you had to buy in for it, and it was just winner take all pop.
Right.
And of course, the richest kid in my hometown picked number 2 and had Flair. And we all just sat there and
wasn't Flair number 3?
Watched that event. And it was so much fun.
Wasn't Flair 3?
It was 2 or 3. I don't.
Yeah. I think Flair was 3. I think he had Davey Boy out there, and then he eliminated. The reason people don't think that Flair was people think Flair was 2 was because Ted DiBiase came out at number 2 and was eliminated like in seconds by Davey Boy.
Okay.
So people just kind of
maybe it was 3, but I know he was So it was 3, but that was a fun event.
Yeah.
That was my favorite Royal Rumble that I wasn't at.
It was probably the greatest Royal Rumble of all time.
Yeah.
You can make
and Heenan made that show.
He did. He really did. He helped make that whole event. But anyways, fantastic pick. I love The Undertaker. Let's see. Are you guys ready to see what my number 1 pick is? Who else could top this list? Few names come to mind when you think of pro wrestling, right? And I think more than 25 years after his death, he's still one of the most iconic figures in this entire industry. And I'm talking about the biggest superstar of all time, Andre the Giant. Right? Who else could top the list? Andre, in his prime, had the perfect combination of size, strength, and charisma. I had the opportunity to see Andre in person in 1980. I was just a little kid, and he scared the ever-loving teetotal S-word out of me because he's so big. He was everywhere. He was in TV. He was in cartoons. He was in movies. Like others in wrestling, he did his hand at acting, and he starred in one of the most beloved movies of all time, The Princess Bride. But like others on the list, he never really needed a championship. He was the championship. He wrestled from 1964 to 1992. And ultimately, gigantism would make movement too difficult for him to wrestle. His last match in 92. Andre was the final boss before The Rock made it popular. Everyone respected Andre. Even guys like Haku and Harley Race, who were noted tough guys themselves, respected Andre. He made such an impact on this industry that wrestling companies to this day try to find the next big guy capable of filling his shoes. But guess what? One problem.
Yeah, no,
There won't be anybody else that will ever fill his shoes. He is a one-of-a-kind, singular performer. And I don't think, when you think of pro wrestling, few images pop into your mind. But like I said, years after his death, people still think Andre the Giant. And I think that is a testament to his being, they still honor him today. Titan does. So, yeah, he was the very first ever Hall of Famer for WWF.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Kai Man?
No, I was going to say that night, the first match I went to, I referenced it earlier, that I saw Andre the Giant versus King Kong Bundy in a steel cage.
Right.
And I think the chanting of holy shit, holy shit, holy shit started
right.
that day in Hartford during that match, because
Right.
Andre slowly worked his way. And I have this burned into my memory because it's my first crazy memory in wrestling. That was like, I was 7 years old, and I think I said, holy shit. He climbed up slowly to the top rope.
Wow.
Okay. And just kind of from the outside of the ring, right inside the steel cage, and got up, and he got 1 foot on the top rope. And then he did not get both on. He didn't stand up there or anything, but he got 1 foot on the top rope and just tipped over.
Oh.
And splashed King Kong Bundy.
Good Lord.
From the top rope. And I have never, ever seen anything like it.
Right.
I mean, that moment and Mick Foley getting thrown off the top of the Hell in a Cell by the Undertaker are the 2 moments in my wrestling history where I just went, wow.
Yeah. No.
Is everyone okay?
Yes. No. It's the wow
because
factor.
That absolute mountain of a man, even though it wasn't any big jump or anything, it was just tipping over off the top.
Right.
That, just the humanity involved in that, with King Kong Bundy being on the bottom, was just like, that is larger than life.
It is. And you know, is probably the biggest reason why I'm a fan today, is because he was the first guy that I ever saw that I was really in awe of. I mean, in person. We went to our first wrestling show when I was 5 years old, and I was in the front row for the main event. Was a 20-man over-the-top battle royal, headed by, of course, Andre the Giant. And when you're standing, and back then, this is back in 1980, right? There was no padding around the ring. There was no guardrail, like those big puffy padded guardrails. No, it was basically just a rope, a rope around the ring. Nobody, I mean, you could cross it. Kids went and screwed around in the ring all the time, but no, nobody crossed that threshold when he came out. It was terrifying. He was the largest human being I ever saw. I looked up and just, I couldn't say anything. I was frozen in fear. I couldn't move. You know, when you're 5 years old and you're looking up at this mass, this 500-pound lump of humanity, I'm surprised I didn't wet myself.
Yeah.
But he made such an impact on me. It made such a brutal impact. It's like, you know what? I bet I could do that. And then I did that, and then I found out why I shouldn't do that. Anywho,
and there's one that should be on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling as well.
Well, what's that?
Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant. Oh yeah, the
we
Mount
talk
Rushmore.
about our Mount Rushmore. That's
one
that would be on the.
He should be on the Mount Rushmore.
Right.
Absolutely. Again, this is also subjective, right? Because I could make a case on any given day. I could throw Bobby Heenan up in there as opposed to Roddy Piper because they both had similar skill sets, right? I could have picked Ric Flair over someone like Vern Gagne, but I know that Vern had more of an impact on the business as a whole than Rick did. So, again, it may be controversial. Maybe I'm talking about guys that nobody's ever heard of, but hey, there's a reason they call me the old school, right?
And I'm
Man.
very happy during this discussion that, and let's not ruin it so close to the end. Let's not make it 21-1 right now. But that a certain name has not been mentioned once today, which is great.
Should we not mention that name?
No, we should not.
Okay. We will not mention that name. I think I know who you're talking
most
about.
Most people would put on
no.
Mount Rushmore.
No.
But he was not even brought up as a honorable mention today on this list.
Not on this list.
Kudos to us.
That's right. That's right.
He was brought up in the fact that a couple matches he was in.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Not as anything.
Yeah.
Not as a consideration for this conversation.
Right. And on that note, I think we are all wrapped up today. We want to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us today. Drop an elbow on that subscribe button and give me a Samoan spike. Other words, a thumbs up if you really dig the show. It helps me and it helps you. Ergo, it helps everybody. For Kind Man, this is the AB saying, so long, everybody.